When 5 notorious bikers swaggered into Riverside Diner looking to intimidate and dominate, they assumed the quiet woman in the corner booth would be an easy target, just another face in a small-town evening scene. What they didn't realize was that Sarah Mitchell wasn't just any diner regular. She was a decorated Force Recon Marine captain with 3 combat tours under her belt and a mission that hadn't ended with her discharge papers. That night, their crude bravado collided with quiet resolve, and what unfolded would not only alter their lives but ripple through the entire community, eventually going viral and sparking a movement that championed veterans' voices and highlighted the battles they continue to fight at home. Sarah sat sipping her coffee, her Purple Heart pin catching the fading rays of dusk. The waitress, Betty, familiar and kind, chatted about the progress at the local Veterans Center, just another regular night until the Steel Vipers roared in with boots heavy and intentions darker. Their leader Razor exuded menace, his eyes sweeping the diner before settling on the mother with 2 children. He cracked a cruel joke, backed by his gang's jeers. But Sarah's voice cut through their laughter like a blade, calm, authoritative, unmistakably military. A chill overtook the diner as her words landed. This was no ordinary woman. Tension snapped like a cable when the first biker lunged, only to be redirected by Sarah's practiced hand into a booth that crumbled beneath him. Razor struck next, with brass knuckles. But Sarah was already moving, dodging, sweeping, dropping him flat to the floor. The next 2 came at her together, one with a blade, the other flanking. Sarah disarmed the knife wielder with a snap kick and a blow to the solar plexus, then brought down his partner with another fluid motion. Phones were already out, recording every move as if the moment demanded witness. One biker backed away, refusing to face the Marine, leaving only Razor, who charged again, this time desperation in his eyes. But Sarah caught him mid-stride, flipping him onto the floor and locking his arm behind his back with unflinching precision. Her voice, low and resolute, delivered a final warning. This wasn't revenge. It was protection, a sacred code she lived by even in peacetime. As the police sirens drew near, the gang staggered to their feet, nursing wounds and egos. Razor, defeated but not humiliated, looked at Sarah with something resembling respect. She didn't press charges. Instead, she offered them a choice: leave as thugs or leave as men willing to reflect. The video of the confrontation, uploaded within minutes, caught fire online, and by sunrise it had millions of views. But that wasn't the end, it was the beginning. The world saw more than a brawl in a diner. They saw a veteran standing not just against violence but for community, dignity, and redemption. The next morning, Sarah tried to return to normal life, heading to her job at the Veterans Center, but normal was long gone. Clients greeted her like a hero. News outlets called non-stop, and people across the country, especially women veterans, held up her actions as a turning point. She hadn't asked for recognition, but it came anyway. Then came Betty's unexpected call. Something was happening at the diner. When Sarah arrived, the parking lot overflowed with locals and motorcycles, not from the Steel Vipers, but from other clubs. Inside, bikers sat respectfully, waiting their turn to speak with her. One stood, his patch reading Road Nights. He introduced himself as Big Mike and extended his hand, explaining that the local clubs weren't like the Vipers. What Sarah did had earned their respect, and they wanted to support her, the diner, and the community. Sarah shook his hand, surprised and humbled, realizing her act of courage had not only protected lives but also bridged unlikely groups, sparked difficult conversations, and awakened dormant pride in veterans everywhere. She had fought countless battles overseas, but none as meaningful as the one she won that night, without bullets, but with courage, conviction, and purpose. "We heard you run a veteran center. A lot of our members are vets. We'd like to help, maybe set up a motorcycle maintenance program for veterans who need transportation, give them something positive to focus on." Before Sarah could respond, the diner's door opened again. Everyone turned to look. It was Tommy, the youngest of the Steel Vipers from the night before, but he wasn't wearing his colors anymore. "Captain Mitchell," his voice shook slightly. "Can I talk to you privately?" Sarah nodded and led him to her usual corner booth. The young man couldn't meet her eyes at first. "I was in a queue," he finally said. "Army infantry. When I came home, I couldn't fit in anywhere. The Vipers, they felt like brotherhood again, you know. But last night, watching you, you reminded me of my old sergeant, always in control, always protecting others." And now Sarah asked gently, "I want out, but it's not just me, Razor. He's been talking all night. What you said about being a protector instead of a threat, it hit him hard. He's got a daughter. You know, she saw the video this morning and called him crying, asked him why he was being a bully." Sarah sat back, taking it in. "What are you asking for?" "Tommy, help, not just for me, for all of us. Most of the Vipers, we're lost, looking for what we had in the service. That sense of purpose. You showed us there's another way to be strong." The diner had gone quiet, everyone subtly listening. Sarah was aware of her phone still recording, capturing what might be another turning point. "The Veteran Center opens at 9, she said. "Finally. Come by tomorrow. Bring anyone who wants to change. We'll figure something out." Tommy's eyes lit up. "Really?" even after what we did, especially after what you did. Because you're proving my point. Real strength isn't about intimidation. It's about having the courage to change. As Tommy left, wiping his eyes, Big Mike approached again. We'll help, he said simply. Any of the Vipers who want to reform, they'll have support from the legitimate clubs. Betty appeared with coffee, beaming on the house. As always, Betty, you can't keep giving me coffee. Watch me, the waitress grinned. Besides, business is booming. Look around. Sarah did. The diner was full, families with children, bikers from various clubs, veterans who had seen the video and come to show support. Everyone was talking, sharing stories, building connections. Her phone buzzed again, another news outlet wanting an interview. But this time, Sarah didn't ignore it. Maybe it was time to tell this story, not just about a fight in a diner, but about veterans finding their way home, about redemption, about how sometimes the right kind of strength can transform enemies into allies. Big Mike, she called out that offer about the motorcycle maintenance program. Let's talk details. As she pulled out a notebook and began sketching out a plan, Sarah realized what had started as a simple confrontation was becoming something much bigger. The video had gone viral not just because of the fight, but because people were hungry for this kind of story, one where conflict leads to connection, where protecting others matters more than proving you're tough. And this was just the beginning. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the Veteran Center early. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she wanted to be ready. At 8:45, the first motorcycle rumbled into the parking lot. It was Razor alone and without his steel Vipers cut. Didn't think you'd be first, Sarah said, meeting him at the door. Couldn't sleep, he admitted. His voice had lost its aggressive edge. Been watching that video over and over, seeing myself, seeing what we'd become. He pulled out his phone and showed Sarah a picture of a young girl, maybe 12 years old. This is Amy, my daughter. She called me yesterday morning, crying. Asked me when I stopped being her hero and became a bully instead. Sarah nodded as she unlocked the door. That must have been hard to hear. Hardest thing I've ever heard. Even harder than when her mom left, saying I'd never change. Razor followed her inside, looking around at the photos of veterans and support services posted on the walls. Thing is, watching you fight. It wasn't just about the moves. It was how you carried yourself, controlled, purposeful, like my drill sergeant back in basic, before I got discharged. You served, tried to, washed out of army, basic, medical, discharge, bad knee, felt like a failure. Started running with bikes to feel strong again. More motorcycles pulled up outside. Tommy arrived with 3 other Vipers. Then came Big Mike, along with some Road Knights members. By 9 o'clock, the center's meeting room was full. Leather vests, tired eyes, uncertain faces. Sarah stood at the front, looking at them all. So, who wants to go first? Tommy raised his hand. I served in Iraq, 2nd Infantry Division. When I came home, everything felt wrong. Too quiet, too normal. The Vipers gave me what I was missing: brotherhood, adrenaline, purpose. But it was the wrong kind of purpose. Others began to speak. Out of the 12 steel Vipers present, 5 were veterans who hadn't completed their service. 3 were sons of veterans who never found their own way to serve. All of them were searching for something they couldn't quite name. Here's what we're going to do, Sarah said, pulling out a whiteboard. First, we're starting a motorcycle maintenance program. Big Mike and the Road Knights are offering to teach. Veterans who need transportation will get help fixing up bikes. You want redemption? Start there. She began listing more on the board. Community service, veteran support, family rebuilding. Second, those of you who are veterans, we've got programs, counseling, job training, whatever you need. Those who aren't but want to support will find a way. Razor stood up. I want to talk to my daughter's school. Tell them what happened. Show them how to be better than I was. Good, Sarah nodded. That's on the list now too. The meeting ran for 3 hours. By the end, they had a plan. The Steel Vipers would disband, but something new would rise in its place: a support group for veterans and their families, centered around motorcycle maintenance and community service. We need a new name, Tommy suggested. Phoenix Riders, someone called out. Because we're rising from the ashes of who we were. The room changed. The men who had walked in looking lost were now sitting straighter, eyes shining with purpose. Sarah recognized that look. She'd seen it before: veterans finally finding their way back to themselves. Later that afternoon, Sarah returned to the Riverside Diner. Betty had saved her usual booth, but she wasn't alone. Maria from the Veteran Center was waiting. Heard about this morning, Maria said as Sarah sat down. Word spreading fast. You know what this means, right? That I'll never have a quiet cup of coffee again. No, Maria laughed. It means we're seeing something new, something important. When that video went viral, everyone focused on the fight. But the real story is what's happening now. Betty brought coffee without being asked. The diner's becoming quite this spot, she reported. Veterans, bikers, families all mixing together. Had some Phoenix Riders in here for lunch. They helped an elderly couple change a flat tire in the parking lot. Sarah's phone buzzed. It was a message from Razor. Amy wants to meet you. Says she wants to learn how to be strong the right way like her dad is learning. As Sarah typed her reply, she thought about how much had changed in just 2 days. The viral video had captured a few minutes of chaos, but the real transformation was happening now, in quiet moments and small choices. We're going to need a bigger veteran center, Maria mused, watching more motorcycles pull into the parking lot. Word's getting out. Veterans from other towns are calling asking if we can help start something similar there. One step at a time, Sarah said, but she was smiling. Through the window she saw Tommy helping an older veteran off his motorcycle, treating the man's walker with the same respect he once gave a rifle. Nearby, 2 former Vipers were teaching a young veteran's wife how to check her motorcycle's oil. You know what's really changing? Betty asked, sliding into the booth beside them. It's not just about veterans finding their way. It's about everyone remembering what community really means. Sarah nodded, thinking of Razor and his daughter, of Tommy reclaiming his warrior spirit in a positive way, of how a single moment of confrontation had opened the door to something much deeper. Sometimes, she said, the strongest thing you can do is show others how to be strong. A week after the diner incident, Sarah stood in the Veterans Center parking lot watching an incredible transformation. What had once been an empty space was now filled with motorcycles, toolboxes, and people working together with purpose. Oh, right, Mrs. Chun, try starting it now, Tommy called out from beneath a restored Harley. The elderly widow turned the key and the engine roared to life, her face lit up with joy. Jack would be so happy, she whispered, tears in her eyes. He always wanted me to learn to ride it. Razor, who now insisted on being called by his real name, Robert, was supervising 3 Phoenix Riders as they taught basic maintenance to a group of young veterans. His daughter Amy sat nearby doing her homework, occasionally glancing up at her father with unmistakable pride. Hey, Captain Mitchell, Robert waved her over. Need your help with something important? Sarah joined him at a makeshift desk they'd set up under a canopy. Spread across it were drawings, plans, and a list of names. What's this? Remember Mrs. Chen's story about her husband's bike? Got me thinking how many other veteran families out there have bikes sitting in garages collecting dust. Memories just waiting to be brought back to life. Sarah looked at the list. These are all local veteran families. In active duty too. We've identified 38 bikes in the county that belong to veterans who've passed or are deployed. We want to restore them all, free of charge. Get them running for the families. Teach them how to maintain them. That's ambitious, Sarah said. But she could already see the potential. There's more, Robert continued. Amy came up with the idea. For the deployed service members' families, we want to offer free maintenance and riding lessons while their loved ones are away. Give them support, something to focus on, show them they're not alone. A commotion at the entrance drew their attention. Big Mike was leading a group of road knights, members and followed by representatives from 3 other legitimate motorcycle clubs. Each bike was loaded with tools and equipment. Heard you folks could use some help. Big Mike grinned. We've got certified mechanics in every club. Time to put those skills to good use. Sarah watched as the parking lot transformed into a coordinated workshop. Veterans helping veterans. Former troublemakers teaching safety courses. Families bonding through shared memories. Maria appeared beside her. Local news is here. They want to talk about Operation Phoenix Rising. Operation what now? That's what the kids came up with. Maria gestured to where Amy and several other children were painting a banner. They're calling it a revival of veteran legacy through motorcycle restoration. Pretty sophisticated for middle schoolers. The news crew captured something remarkable that day, not just people fixing bikes, but a community healing itself. They interviewed Mrs. Chen, who spoke about feeling close to her husband again. They filmed Amy proudly explaining how her father and his friends were real heroes now, not because they could fight, but because they had the courage to change. Now helping other heroes' families. The most powerful moment came when Tommy led a group of Phoenix Riders in presenting a restored bike to a deployed Marine's pregnant wife. Your husband's bike is ready for when he comes home, Tommy told her. And until then, we'll teach you everything you need to know about it. You're part of our family now. Later that evening, Sarah returned to Riverside Diner, exhausted but content. Betty didn't even ask. She just brought her coffee and sat down across from her. Saw the news. Betty smiled. Those men, they're different now. Robert was in here for lunch with Amy. Paid for a veteran's meal without telling him. Just left a note saying, "Welcome home, brother." Sarah nodded. It's like they finally found what they were looking for all along, not power over others, but the power to help others. Speaking of help, Betty lowered her voice. Heard about the trouble at Murphy's bar last night. Sarah tensed. No, what happened? A bunch of out-of-town bikers started harassing customers. Before the police could even respond, 6 Phoenix Riders showed up. You know what they did? Bought the troublemakers coffee, sat them down, talked to them about purpose and respect. 3 of those bikers are coming to your center tomorrow. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. They're becoming peacekeepers, just like you. Betty winked. By the way, someone left something for you. She handed Sarah an envelope. Inside was a child's drawing, a figure in marine dress blues standing beside a motorcycle, surrounded by smiling people. At the bottom, in careful handwriting, to Captain Mitchell. Thank you for showing my dad how to be a hero again. Love, Amy. Sarah pinned the drawing to the Veteran Center bulletin board the next morning. It joined other symbols of transformation photos of restored bikes, thank you letters from families, news clippings about the Phoenix Riders community service, but more importantly, it represented something bigger than one viral video or one confrontation in a diner. It showed how a single moment of standing up for what's right could spark a movement of positive change. As Sarah looked out her office window at the busy parking lot where former enemies now worked side by side helping others, she realized that sometimes the greatest victories don't end with surrender, but with everyone rising together. The success of Operation Phoenix Rising caught attention far beyond their small town. 1 month after the diner incident, Sarah found herself facing a new challenge: expansion. Veteran centers from 3 neighboring states were calling, wanting to know how to start their own Phoenix Riders programs. We've got a situation, Robert announced, walking into Sarah's office early Monday morning. He wasn't alone. With him was a man Sarah recognized from national news Senator James Harrison, a decorated combat veteran himself. Captain Mitchell, the senator, extended his hand. Your program has caught the attention of the Veterans Affairs Committee. We're interested in turning this into a national initiative. Sarah gestured for them to sit. That's unexpected, is it? The senator pulled out his phone. The original video has over 50 million views now. But it's what came after that got my attention. You've turned former troublemakers into community leaders. You've given veteran families new purpose. You've created a model that works. Robert spoke up. We've been getting calls from motorcycle clubs all over the country. They want to reform, want to help veterans like we're doing. But we need structure, resources. That's where I come in, Senator Harrison explained. I'm proposing a bill to fund veteran motorcycle restoration programs nationwide, based on your Phoenix Riders model. But we need you to help set it up. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Senator, we're just a small operation. Not anymore, Robert interrupted. Show her. Amy, who had been quietly drawing in the corner, brought over her tablet. On it was a map of the country, dozens of glowing points lighting up the screen. Each light is a place where people want to start Phoenix Riders chapters, she explained proudly. I've been helping Dad track the requests. The senator nodded approvingly. This could be revolutionary for veteran support services. Combining motorcycle culture with veteran outreach, it speaks to a demographic we've struggled to reach before. Sarah was about to respond when Maria burst in. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She turned on the office TV. A national morning show was running a segment titled From Confrontation to Community: The Phoenix Riders Revolution. The screen showed clips from their recent bike restoration event, interviews with veteran families, and scenes of former gang members teaching motorcycle safety to kids. This isn't just about bikes anymore, Maria said. It's about showing people there's always a path to redemption, always a way to serve. The senator stood up. I'll give you time to think about it, but remember, Captain Mitchell, sometimes the greatest service we can render is showing others how to serve. After he left, Robert stayed behind. Sarah, we need to talk about Jake. Jake, leader of the Iron Wolves, MC from 2 counties over. They're like what we used to be, and maybe worse. He came to see me last night. They want to change, but they don't know how. Sarah sighed. Robert, I know we're already stretched thin, but that's why we need this national program, he insisted. We can't help everyone ourselves, but we can show others how to help themselves. A knock at the door interrupted them. It was Tommy, looking excited. You're not going to believe this. Remember that group of troubled teens the court ordered to do community service with us? The ones you've been teaching basic maintenance? Sarah asked. Yeah, well, their probation officer just called. Since they started working with us, not one of them has missed a check-in. 3 have gone back to school. 2 got part-time jobs. They're saying our program works better than traditional intervention. Sarah looked at the map on Amy's tablet, all those points of light representing communities asking for help. She thought about Jake and his Iron Wolves, about troubled teens finding their way, about veteran families reconnecting through their lost loved ones' motorcycles. Robert, she said finally, get Jake on the phone. Tell him to bring his leadership here tomorrow. And Amy, yes, Captain Mitchell, think you can help me prepare a presentation for the senator? We're going to need to show exactly how this program can work on a national scale. Amy's face lit up, already on it. Dad and I have been making flowcharts and everything. Just then, Betty arrived from the diner with coffee and news. You'll never guess who just showed up at Riverside. 3 members of the old Steel Vipers who left town before all this started. They saw the morning show and drove back from Texas. They're waiting to talk to you. Sarah looked around her office at Robert, once her opponent, now one of her strongest allies. At Amy, whose father's transformation had inspired her to dream of helping others. At Tommy, who'd found his way back to the person he'd always wanted to be. Tell them I'll be there in an hour, she said. And Betty, we're going to need more coffee. Looks like Riverside Diner is about to become command central for something bigger than we ever imagined. As Betty left, Robert picked up a framed photo from Sarah's desk, the infamous still from the viral video, the moment she'd stood up to protect a frightened family. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "when you took us down that night, you actually lifted us up, showed us who we could be." "That's the thing about real strength," Sarah replied, watching Amy work on her presentation. "It doesn't just win fights, it transforms lives." The Riverside Convention Center had never seen anything quite like this. 300 motorcycle club members from across the country mixed with veterans, social workers, and family support coordinators, all gathered for the first National Phoenix Riders Summit. Sarah stood backstage, reviewing her notes one last time, nervous. Robert appeared beside her wearing a new leather vest with the Phoenix Riders emblem, a rising phoenix wrapped around a motorcycle wheel, with the word strength through, service beneath. "Not about speaking," Sarah replied, "more about what comes next. Jake's Iron Wolves are here. So are the Desert Raiders from Arizona, the Coast Riders from Florida, all former outlaw clubs looking to change." Robert nodded. "Just like we did." "That's what worries me," she said. "We're about to teach former rivals how to work together. What if old conflicts resurface?" Robert smiled. "Watch this." He pulled out his phone, showing Sarah a group chat. The screen was filled with photos, restored bikes, veteran family stories, motorcycle safety class graduations from across the country. "They're already working together," he said. "Old rivalries don't matter much when you're focused on serving others." Senator Harrison stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the woman who started it all, Captain Sarah Mitchell." The applause was thunderous. Sarah walked out, taking in the scene. In the front row, Amy sat with a group of other kids, all children of former gang members, all wearing Junior Phoenix Riders t-shirts they designed themselves. Behind them, Jake and his Iron Wolves sat next to their former rivals, sharing notes about veteran outreach programs. 2 months ago, Sarah began, "I stood up in a diner because it was the right thing to do. I never expected that moment to lead to this, but looking around this room, I see something remarkable. I see former enemies becoming allies. I see troubled pasts transforming into promising futures." She gestured to the screen behind her where photos began to cycle through. In just 8 weeks, Phoenix Riders chapters have restored over 200 veteran-owned motorcycles. We've provided transportation to 83 veterans in need. Our youth mentorship program has helped 47 at-risk teens find better